You're listening to the Floyd Main Street Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Eric Branscombe at the Floyd Main Street Podcast. I'm filling in for Lucas today. We have a special interview today because we're in an election season. If you haven't noticed so far, we've got several key things coming up in November. And because of that, we've invited Sara Campbell from the Registrar's Office to come down and speak with us. And Paul is also here from the Electoral Board. And so what I'd like to do is just start off with a little bit about yourselves and what actually you do for the county, because sometimes people know about the registrar, sometimes you just know that you go to the voting office. Sara, could you open it up and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in your position?
I'm Sara Campbell. I'm happy to be here today, and I am your general registrar for Floyd County. I just started. I've only been here for about almost a year now, and I am over the office that oversees the voter registration for the county. And we also oversee the elections for the county as well.
Now, it was Amy Ingram that used to be in there, is that right?
She did, and she retired last year.
That's right. How many years had she been at it? Do you remember?
I believe Amy had been there for at least 25, I think.
You're stepping into some shoes with that, and you had to take over last year?
I did.
The presidential election?
I did. I started right before the presidential election. It was a lot of fun.
Ooh, imagine that was.
Yeah.
Now, Paul, you're on the Electoral Board.
Yeah, that's right. Well, a little bit about me first. I'm a retired automotive executive. Came to Floyd County to settle after 10 years on the road as a full-time RV traveler. And that allowed me to get back into my interest, which is a little bit of politics and also elections. I was fortunate enough to be nominated by the Democratic Committee here in town, and I'm in my second year of work on the Electoral Board, and I chair it. And I backfilled for Breck Avalar, who did that for about 7 years. So like Sara, I've got some experienced big boots to fill and working on that. But
that's not the only thing you've got your fingers in town. Because when I first met you, you worked with the Historic Society.
That's true, and I still do. I'm on the board of directors of the Historical Society, and I've also served them as their individual who does all of the paperwork to register things and get the collections organized, that type of thing. Active member within the political community here. Try to do anything I can to serve the community and help the community. I really do love living in Floyd, and particularly this role on the Electoral Board, because our job is to oversee Sara and her team, and we're also responsible to certify the results of the election. So our mission is to ensure that we have safe, secure, fair, and accurate elections each and every time. And to do that, we're very careful to review all the results, audit everything carefully, and then put our name on a form to say that we certify that these are accurate results, and it goes to the state. They aggregate all the statewide results and come up with the results of the elections.
So what's the makeup of the Electoral Board at the moment?
The Electoral Board is made up of 3 people.
Is that true for every jurisdiction, or does that vary by population or anything?
No, it is 3 in every locality. There's 133 localities within the state, and each one of them has a 3-person board, except for the statewide board. They're a 5-member board. So the way we're set up is that it's based on the political party of our current governor. So Governor Youngkin is a Republican. The board is made up right now of 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And that might change if there's a change in November, if necessary. And we serve 3-year terms, and they're staggered. So one person goes off every year or can be reappointed. And we're reappointed by the circuit court judge, Judge Fleener. Actually, it makes the decision.
From what I've seen over the past 10 or so years is that there seems to be a strong tradition with the Floyd Electoral Board of working together to get the job done, regardless of political party.
Absolutely. What you will see is we kind of have this feeling that when we walk into our meetings, we leave the elephants and the donkeys at the door. And we come in as nonpartisan. And we work together as a team, regardless of our political leanings, to assure that we deliver the best possible results that we can for the community.
Well, who else is on the board at the moment?
Our co-chair is Rebecca Howell.
Okay.
And our secretary is Bob Smith.
Okay.
Both great team members. I've enjoyed working with them. And like I said, they park theirs at the door. I park mine at the door. And we come in and really try to do the best that we can for the community.
Y'all must meet fairly frequently because Sarah's office is on the top floor of the courthouse.
Right.
And I see all three of you around almost as much as I see Sarah.
Yeah, well, we're probably bothering Sarah. Because this is a small locality, but regardless of whether you're in a large or a small locality, the work is the same except for the volume of votes. So by us being more hands-on, we're able to help Sarah and provide resources that she doesn't have to hire or replace, that kind of thing.
Y'all are doing some of the grunt work as well as just sitting back and making decisions, right?
Particularly Bob is the secretary. He has additional work. So he'll be out in the county doing America Disabilities Act surveys to make sure that our locations are safe and secure and easy to access. He does a lot of work in preparing materials that have to go out to the polling places on election day. So everybody has their thing.
Sounds like y'all have taken on a lot on your shoulders.
Yeah, but it's good work. We enjoy it, and we're proud of the outcomes, and we're happy to do what we do to help the community.
Sarah, we've got some elections coming up. What have we got coming up this fall that's on the ballot?
Exciting stuff. Every precinct will have the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and the Virginia House of Delegates, District 47. That will be on all precincts ballots. And then the courthouse and Indian Valley, they have some additional local races. They each have a board of supervisor and a school board race. And then the town has a election for a mayor, and then there's 2 seats open for town council.
Oh, okay. Do you know, are any of these races contested? Because Will has been the mayor for some time.
So the mayor is uncontested, and there's 2 seats available for town council, and we have 3 individuals running for 2 seats.
Okay. Who are they?
Bruce Turner, who's a current town council member, Chris Bond, who's a current town council member, and then Lisa Thompson has thrown her name in the ring.
From the library.
Yep.
I have signs started to appear.
Yes. I think you're going to start seeing some signs appear.
Yeah. That's right. All right. So we also have the county races. So in the courthouse, is either the supervisors or the school board position, are they contested?
They are not contested.
Okay.
Jerry Booth for Board of Supervisors, and then Deborah Snellings for School Board.
What about in the Valley?
In Indian Valley, you have Walter Phillips on the ballot for Board of Supervisors, and then you have Gene Bishop for School Board.
Gene's been at it for quite some time for the school board as well, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
Okay. Are either of those contested?
They are not contested, except there might be a write-in campaign for the Board of Supervisors.
I heard that there might be a write-in campaign coming. What kind of extra challenges does that bring, not so much for the candidate, but for you guys?
Well, the electoral board will get to make some decisions.
The law requires us to count write-in ballots if it exceeds 10% of the total of any race.
And would that be 10% for one particular candidate? Because I know that each time we'll have people write in for various races like Donald Duck and things like that.
It's an aggregate. If the total ballots, regular or write-in, regardless of the names on them, exceed 10%, we've got to look at them. So that's where the challenge comes in, because you get misspellings, different spellings, things like Donald Duck or Mary Had a Little Lamb or something like that written in there. So we have to adjudicate each individual ballot looking at the write-in, and then we will make a determination as to which stack it would go into. So we have the opportunity to say, okay, if it's Smith, but somebody reversed the I and the M, we could assume that that's still Smith. So we could count them the same way.
I was just thinking, because there are a lot of Branscombs in the southern part of the county, but those are Branscombs with an E.
Right.
And I'm a Branscomb without an E.
Right.
And kind of an outcast from that group. So you had a write-in like that, if it's a small difference. How far does your judgment go with that?
We have basically the full range of judgment. We can make a decision as a board. If it comes to a point where we're unsure where to put it, we will each look at it individually, and we will take a formal vote as to, yes, this one will count in this pile, or it will not. So it will always be a 2-1 or all in favor or whatever the case will be. And if it's against, then that would go into a pile in which we were unable to determine its validity.
And Sarah, how does that affect what you do?
Well, they get to make the hard choices if it's going to be a longer meeting. I think it'll just delay the results a little bit.
It's part of our responsibility. When the election closes on election night, our work really begins, because we have to account for everything that has happened during that day. So we're very, very careful. If we issue 500 ballots to a polling place, we make absolutely sure that we get 500 back, whether they're voted or not voted. And we're very careful to make sure that they are secured, certified that we have them, and they're locked up in this building in the clerk's vault. So we always have that physical evidence of the paper ballot. So that when we have to adjudicate individual ballots, we're very, very careful to make sure that we have observers that witness what we're doing, because we don't want to inadvertently lose track of a ballot or a batch of ballots. So we're very, very careful in the handling of that evidence. It's just like in your job, you have to make sure the custody of the evidence is very carefully managed. And we go through that process, even to the point that if we're transporting a ballot from this building across to the other side where we do our work, we have a police escort.
Oh, okay.
We want to make absolutely sure that our evidence is secure.
Who do you get to do the observation?
We invite members of the political parties, and we also invite the public at large. So when we are doing our canvass, as it's called, which is the day after election, it's an open meeting for anyone in the public to come, and we have a mailing list of specific people. We want them to know when it's happening, where it's happening, and invite them. It's part of the Code of Virginia. We're required to make that aware of. And so we get as many people as we can and are allowed to come and witness what we're doing. Again, we want people as advocates that we're doing things correctly. We don't want adversaries to say they're not doing it right. So having folks come and observe what we're doing helps to make the public comfortable that we're doing it correctly.
Okay. So that sounds like you've got a lot of work that happens after the election, but it sounds like that work is going to start with the beginning of the election, which sounds like that's actually starting fairly soon.
It is starting soon. Early voting will start on September 19th. So there's several things that we have to do to get ready before September 19th, such as we test all of our equipment. There are mandates from the state that we have to do specific testing with all of the equipment to make sure that everything is operating and is accurate. We'll do that in a couple of weeks. And early voting, again, it starts on September 19th. So we will actually be doing early voting in the room next to our office.
Okay.
Which is the auxiliary courtroom.
The blue room.
The blue room, yes, the blue room. We did early voting there in November for the presidential, and it worked out very well. I think everybody had a positive things to say.
Well, blue is such a calming and color on the walls.
Yes. The room just flows perfectly. It's a great setup for what we needed to do for early voting. So that'll start on September 19th. It goes until the Saturday before the election. So it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then people can come up to the courthouse. They can vote early. Doesn't matter which precinct you're in. And then the 2 Saturdays before the election, you can also come into the office. We're open.
So the Saturday voting is limited, because I remember there was a confusion when we were going through all the COVID things. In the aftermath of that, it was a bit more confusing, some of the rules, because we had every Saturday for some of those, or a lot more Saturdays. And so it sounds like it's gotten more refined since then for the early voting.
Our office is open the 2 Saturdays before the election. So that would be November 1st and maybe October 24th, I think.
So if people are going the early voting, do they have to go to a particular location? Or you talked about coming to the courthouse. How does that break down? If I'm from Locust Grove or from Indian Valley, but I want to vote early, where do I go to and why?
I think that is the great thing about early voting. It does not matter what precinct that you are in. You can come to the courthouse during early voting, which is the September 19th through that November 1st date. On election day, you do have to go to your precinct. You cannot vote anywhere else. You have to go to your designated precinct. And on election day, the hours are 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., so it's a little bit longer. Early voting is that 9 to 5, but it does not matter which precinct you are in. And if you are not able to come upstairs I know we are all the way up on the top floor, we do have a bell out in the parking lot, and you can pull your car right up to the bell, and we can curbside vote. So if you have a disability, we are happy to come out to the car and assist you, and you don't have to come all the way up to the second floor.
Okay, great. a lot of times we'll have echoes of these national controversies happen locally. So if we had issues with or at least have been complaints about our mail-in voting, are there any issues with that now? I know that there were also issues with the reliability of computer voting. Those were things that happened nationally, and I know that people have brought them up locally. But
I'll address that, Eric. Certainly, there have been a lot of concerns about the validity of elections, and that began probably back around 2020, and the voices got louder and louder. What I will say as a member of the Electoral Board is that here in Virginia, the voting laws, the voting systems, and the methodology is probably among the most robust and reliable in the entire country. One of the reasons for that is that we always have the physical evidence of the ballot.
I remember that being a big thing, and some people worrying about that. Weren't there people that asked to have a copy of their ballot or something like that?
Actually, our current administration, President Trump, signed an executive order where the Election Assistance Commission has been ordered to look into providing a receipt.
Oh, okay.
That has not happened
yet. Okay.
None of the executive orders related to elections from our current administration have actually been enacted in law.
Okay. That's good to know, because I know if there's a disconnect from the things you see on television news or what actually happens locally, it's people talk about potentials, but then we have the reality of what we have when you actually go to the voting booth.
There always are minor changes. The states are responsible for election administration nationally. That's part of our Constitution, where the states run elections. And there's always little changes to the law which we have to deal with every year. The most notable one for us this year is the closing of the books for registration. Previously, we closed the books 21 days before the election. Voters or non-registered voters will have the opportunity to register up to 10 days prior to the election now, before the books are closed. But then there is one other wonderful step that opens up the opportunity to vote for people that may arrive into our locality at the last minute. It's called same-day registration. An individual can come to the polling place on Election Day if they're not currently registered and actually conduct a vote through what's called same-day registration. And that's something that we as the board, we look at those individually because we have to.
They're provisional.
They're provisional.
Being provisional means that you check them later to make sure somebody hasn't voted somewhere else.
And that they're in the correct precinct.
Right.
The Help America Vote Act, Section 302, describes nationwide the requirement for people to have the opportunity to vote provisionally. And the reason for that is on Election Day, it's tense, there's a lot of action, they're busy, and the folks at the precincts may not have enough information to make a judgment about someone's eligibility to vote.
Right.
So we let them vote provisionally so that later we can look at more evidence, get all the data together, and do our best, because the way we look at it is we want to do everything we can to find a reason to let someone vote rather than find a reason not to let them vote. So we look at it with an open mind to say, can we let this person vote? And only say no if it's absolutely clear that they should not be voting.
Which reminds me on some of the things from Election Day that the common questions that come up, things like what you can wear when you go to vote. Probably not so much this year. You don't see many people with Youngkin T-shirts and folks running now. You don't see a lot of that. But last year, that was certainly an issue. Is there a limitation on if you're carrying someone's pen in? So if Lisa Thompson was to hand out pens,
You want to handle that one, Sarah?
As long as they're not campaigning in the polling place, they're not talking to other voters and trying to influence their vote. In November, we really didn't have any issues with things that people were wearing. There were a few interesting outfits, but there's no issue with that. As long as they're not trying to influence somebody else's vote.
There is a line in the sand. We call it the 40-foot line, and we actually measure it at the entrance of the polling place out 40 feet and put signs.
This is when you go to vote, you get inundated with all the people handing you stuff.
Right, that's outside the 40-foot, and that's completely legal.
And then you go in that bubble, and they can't.
A voter can go in wearing what they want.
Okay.
A candidate, they have some restrictions there.
Oh, okay.
And they also, candidates can't linger inside a polling place like perhaps someone else.
What are some of the funnier stories that you've had from things that happen at some of the polling places? You remember any incidents off the top of your head that were just kind of odd?
sometimes you run into situations where people are in the wrong place. Mm-hmm. And that happened here because we had a little bit of a redistricting within Floyd County a few years ago. And even though the registrar's office did their best sending out new registration cards, you run into folks that wind up in the wrong place. And sometimes it can be just funny and they're happy to go across the street to the right polling place or drive to the right polling place. But sometimes it can be, they could get rather insistent. So we really rely on the skills of our poll workers to handle those kind of things. And sometimes they come back shaking their head. And sometimes you get someone who showed up and they came in and voted early, and then they show up at the polling place again. And we have, because of the systems, we know we have already given them voting credit. So we say, sorry, you can't vote twice. So those kind of things.
Imagine some of the confusion because we've gone from one of the polling places, like particularly for Little River, moved to, what was it? Is it Floyd Elementary?
Floyd Elementary.
So Floyd Elementary has Little River, but courthouse district, you go to Floyd High School,
Right.
which are like practically right next door to each other.
Luckily, very close. So if somebody needs, they can just walk down the hill to the correct place.
One of the funnier things I've run across is because this local precinct is called courthouse.
Uh-huh.
Well, some people show up here to vote in this building.
A lot of people do come up to the courthouse thinking that because they're in the courthouse precinct that they come to the courthouse.
So if you're in the courthouse precinct, don't come here. Go to the high school. That's your polling place.
On election day, unless it's early voting, then feel free to come to the courthouse.
Right. Yeah.
It is a little confusing, but
Has the whole early voting thing kind of gotten into a better system now? Because I know it took a while once it got started to kind of get people into a rhythm with it.
I think November, which was my first election, I think it ran really, really well. I think we had, I want to say 4,600 early voters. It was a lot. And it flowed really well. The way that we have the room set up, we're able to accommodate at least 4 voters. And so we never really had a long line, even the days that we had close to 300 people. Well, I expect that this November, we'll see a great number of voters during early voting. June was pretty slow, but primaries are usually kind of slower. But I think in November, we'll see close to the same amount of voters. I think as people really like early voting because it's so convenient. And so I think people will start to use that more often than actually going to the polling places on.
You know, you mentioned the primaries reminds me of something that's a controversy that's going on. So they've eliminated, as I understand it, the party-run primaries. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so the privately run primaries are, at the moment, no more. The state would run the primaries for each political party. So you'd have one for the Republicans, one for the Democrats, et cetera. Is there any requirement or any kind of process that a person going to get in, say, the Democratic primary or a Republican primary would have to go through to show that they actually were a member of that particular party or had a history with that party?
There's no requirement. As you know, when we register voters here in Virginia, you do not have to state a party affiliation. The only time that is required is if you are registering to get a mail-in ballot sent out to you, because we have to send you the right one.
For the primary?
If it's a dual primary.
If it's a dual primary.
A dual primary, gotcha.
Right. So
Okay.
in the case of a dual primary in which you go in person, you go up to our poll worker, they'll bring you up, and they will ask you, would you prefer to have a Democratic ballot or a Republican ballot? The voter has the choice. There's no requirement to prove one way or the other.
Okay.
It's just your personal preference that you would like to have, but you can only choose one.
You can't vote in both.
Can't vote in both.
So a Democrat can vote in the Republican
Correct.
primary and vice versa?
Yes, correct.
That's it. That's it. So it's wide open as far
It's
as that
wide
goes. Okay.
Yep.
Well, that helps you understand a few other things. So are there any other messages you'd like to get out to the public in particular with going into this new election cycle?
The last day to register to vote is October 24th. So if you are not registered, please come see us and get registered before that deadline, because after the 24th, then you would have to vote the same day registration, which is a provisional ballot. So if you're not registered, come on in and we'll get you registered. October 24th is also the last day to request an absentee ballot through the mail. So that's another really important.
That's also October 24th?
That's also October 24th.
Okay.
And then September 19th is when early voting begins, Monday through Friday in our office, 9 to 5. And we will be closed on October 13th for Columbus Day.
Okay. So other than that, Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday, and then the 2 Saturdays before the election. The Monday before the election, there is no voting. And on Tuesday, November 4th, you will have to go to your designated precinct.
No voting on the Monday before because y'all are kind of bracing yourself for all the in-person voting.
Right. We are delivering equipment to all the polling places. We are having our officers of elections come up and pick up materials that they need. We keep all of our equipment stored in these secured cages. So after we do the testing and the machines are loaded into these cages, they are sealed, and then they go out the day before.
Well, that's something I've got a lot of questions on over the years. These cages sitting around in the hallways of the courthouse wondering what we're doing with people.
Well, that comes to a part of the work of the board, and I mentioned Bob Smith and his hard work in preparing all of the equipment and materials for Election Day. We actually enhanced our process a couple of elections ago to make sure all of the equipment go into secure metal cages that are locked and sealed. And the reason for that was we want to make sure that we have custody of all of the equipment. We didn't want a poll book worker having to carry poll books on their own, or we didn't want to have the chief having to carry a tabulator machine on his own. By putting it all in a secure cage and using our equipment custodians, a team, we make sure, again, the chain of custody of the equipment is secure right from the storage room in a locked and sealed cage that we prepare the night before. As Sara said, our election officers come in, they do the inventory, they sign off on everything, so we continue that chain right out to the polling place when they're secured in the building, and then in the morning we can confirm that nothing has been tampered with because the seals are in place. We have all the numbers. We can check that.
That reminds me, I think we take the opportunity to give a shout out to all these people that do so much for virtually no pay.
Yeah.
And some of them get like, what, $25 or something like that.
It's a little better than that.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to thank Sara and her team. They do a terrific job in preparing. There's a lot of work up front preparing for the election, running the early voting right up through the entire process. And we really do appreciate them, you know.
They're part of the community, and I mean, I know Donna and everyone up there and Phyllis, everyone's been a long time members of the community and want to make sure that's the best for Floyd.
Everybody works really well together to accomplish the goal of the elections, and the officers of elections, they're wonderful. We really do have a great pool of officers of elections, and that's a lot of credit to Amy as well, like building up this great pool and great relationships with people over the years. And so we really do have great officers of elections and chiefs at each precinct. And it really does work smoothly, and Floyd and the board works really good together, which is wonderful. So far, I've only been here for a year, but I've had a great experience.
Oh, great.
This far.
One important thing is the folks that do the job, but also community involvement. We hold regular monthly meetings. Usually it's the second Thursday. Is that right?
Yes.
Second Thursday
Yes.
of each month over in the community room, in the old Skyline Bank community room at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's open to the public. And we really encourage members of the public to come and see what we do and how we do it and learn about the process and to gain insights. It's like our Board of Supervisors meetings are open to the public. Ours are open to the public as well.
I'm an advocate for that. Have more community involvement so that people understand how the systems work and feel better about the system. Because part of the people feel uncomfortable with whatever it is, whether it's the courts or voting or the Board of Supervisors, it's a matter of not being familiar with the system and the people.
If you have a question, you hear something that you're concerned about, we're here to help answer those questions. We're the first-hand folks. We study the law. It's our job to make sure everything's done correctly. And if there's any questions or concerns, or you see something you're uncomfortable with in the process, let us know. We will answer the questions. If it's something that needs to be investigated, we will. And we'll get to the bottom of it and make sure things are done right.
Well, Sara, Paul, thank you for coming down and talking with us today and getting out here and letting people know what y'all do and what's going on.
Right.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks very much.
You can relax now, Sara. Everything's over.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, appreciate it.
This is a completely different role that I'm in now than what I used to be.
Thank you all for being here. This has been great, and I hope it's helpful to everybody in the county and the town so they can know where to vote, what's on the ballot, and what's at risk, because that's the most important thing. Your vote really counts in a local election, much more so than in the state or the federal election. Every vote here counts.
Absolutely.
Thank you all very much, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Treasures untold.